Remember back in October when I was a guest at the 40th annual Pinball Expo, their first year combining with VGS, and I gave a talk there, and I told you guys I was going to make a video of the Pinball Expo and show you what it was all about. Yeah, it's been a while, but that video is finally here. Let's take a look at the 40th annual Pinball Expo. Alright guys, at long last, Pinball Expo. This was the 40th anniversary, and walking in the front doors here, you had registration and souvenirs, they had shirts and stuff like that. This year, they combined with VGS, the Video Game Summit, and this was just outside of Chicago, Illinois. The floor plan of Pinball Expo was not what you get at kind of a normal expo. Usually you have vendors in big lines. Here was like a homebrew build a blinky, they called it, where you could build your own little circuit with some lights. And then moving on to the homebrew section, yes, there is homebrew pinball. These are pinball machines that people have made. Most of them are just one-offs. It's not like video game homebrew where you can make lots and lots, but this one in particular, the saw cabinet, I absolutely loved this one. Something that was really cool is it had this cage at the top. You recognize that from the first movie. And when you drain your last ball, that cage slams shut and it makes you jump about 10 feet in the air. It was really well done. This and The Greatest Showman, which was to its left, they won first and second place in the homebrew competition here. But moving in, they had a whole pile of other cabinets as well. We're going to walk through it. And remember, no matter how professional these look, and they do look very professional, most of them, they are all homebrew cabinets. People have kind of just made these on their own. And they had some work in progress there as well. And the vast majority of these you could just walk up to and play. There's The Nightmare Before Christmas. Here's kind of a work in progress one. There's some 3D printed scenery. Really nicely done. Eye waving there. Led Zeppelin, this table much better than the official Led Zeppelin table in my personal opinion. Portal, that one was a work in progress. And it's just really neat to see what people can do. A lot of this stuff, here's a Sonic spinball cabinet, which obviously, I mean, that's duh, why wouldn't you make one of those? And then Pokemon, but just all the different skill sets required to make one of these. Got Dukes of Hazzard. I love how they put the General Lee's #1 on the side there. There's just so much talent that goes into them, and this was honestly one of the neatest spots in the entire expo. And you could talk with the makers. Makers were usually there. But right here, okay, so Hercules is known as the largest pinball cabinet in the world. And this one on the left, Mothership, this is a homebrew cabinet. Somebody made this. It does use a billiard ball as the pinball, but it's dwarfs the Hercules cabinet. It was really, really cool to see. And then, like I was saying before, this isn't, like most conventions are usually like row upon row of vendors, and you can kind of go up and down the rows. This one was spread out a little differently, and you really had to wander. And so for this walkthrough, I I know I missed some stuff, but trying to show, at least give you a good flavor. So this is, you know, this is what a pinball machine looks like underneath. And that's actually less wiring than if you're really looking at a vintage one. And then coming around here, this arcade, this Air Raider arcade here, is completely restored. It's an original arcade from, I believe, the 1950s. And it was for sale. If you had a cool $20,000, you could pick that up. And it's got a photo of what it looked like back in the day. And then this was kind of our section here. So there's Think Quick Events, and there's Michael Thomason selling some of the rare games. He brought really high value stuff. That's easier to pack on a plane because there's not as much of it. Here's Jeff Lee. He's a video game and pinball artist. There's Paul Niemeyer, famous for his work on Mortal Kombat as well as some other arcades. There's Brett Weiss selling his books, lots and lots of books, as well as some video games there. Where Brett is right now, that was John Hancock's table. He wasn't there when I was walking past, but he had all his Block'em Sock'em versions. And then here, it's a gentleman who had the largest Sonic collection in the world. And this guy wanted to show me a little something there, some nostalgia for sure. And I think I come back to it. Here's a whole bunch of pinball parts, but on the right there was the Pinball Scientist. Now the Pinball Scientist I have to mention because that is actually Spencer Walter's brother. So we know Spencer Walter from Winsley's Guardian as well as the Diabeater game. That's his brother. His brother's big passion is pinball, and he had some really cool stuff there. Combining with the VGS this year, there was a decent amount of video game stuff for sale, but not as much as you would see in a normal gaming convention. This primary stuff here was pinball. But as you can see, there was a good selection. I was actually able to pick up a few Atari 2600 games and a couple 5200 games that I didn't have. You have the standard kind of art tables where they had like buttons there. And then this here, this was the Stern play area. They had tons of different Stern cabinets, a lot of the new stuff. So X-Men was there. They even had a leaderboard challenge, which was in this cool booth. They had Jaws, they had John Wick, they had Godzilla. Really cool to be able to play these new cabinets that you may not have seen. They are in production, they are out there, but some of these, especially like X-Men, they're really new cabinets. So you don't see them everywhere, but here you could come and 007, I love that pinball cabinet. Here you could come and play away, and most of them, you know, maybe they'd have one or two people in line. You wouldn't have to wait too long to play, and if you wandered around, if you weren't too concerned about playing a specific cabinet, you could, most of the weekend, you could just walk up to at least one of these cabinets and play it. There's Venom. And of course they had some Stern merch for sale. I was tempted with that Jurassic Park shirt. I love Jurassic Park, but I was good. I didn't have a lot of money to spend this trip. And then there's just some free play pinball here. Lots of vintage cabinets, some newer cabinets as well. For those of you that have seen my Pastimes Arcade Part 3, this is a modern version of that helicopter game that was in there. It's actually a surprisingly fun game. You have to adjust the height and the speed of the helicopter. and hit these metal rods that are around it to activate the next light, and then you have to hit that one. So lots of fun stuff. This variation of the Godzilla cabinet, kind of all black and white and red. It's a Japanese style one. For whatever reason, I love it even more than the regular Godzilla cabinet. Even though it's the same cabinet, just with a different art style, I love it. If I was gonna get one of these, it'd probably be that one. So, like you can see there, you know, I could easily walk up to, if I wasn't too concerned about playing a specific cabinet, I could easily walk up and play one. So, I had to peek in there at Wizard of Oz. Wizard of Oz is a great cabinet, and this Star Trek one also caught my eye. I love me some Star Trek. I'm a bit of a Trekkie, so cool to see. That's a more vintage one. Pirates of the Caribbean. Elton John. Elton John is one of my... I like Elton John good enough, but that pinball cabinet, if I had to buy one of the modern cabinets, there's the helicopter game again, but if I had to buy one of the modern cabinets, that would be it. It's not too hard. It's got good music. It's a lot of fun to play. I really, really like it. And then, of course, you got a few arcade games here. We've got some more arcade games elsewhere that I'll be showing. It's also really nice to be able to play pinball machines from different eras, and you can see kind of how they've evolved over the years. Certainly no shortage of pinball to play, and this is just the Stern section, and a little free play there on the right. There are other sections that we're going to see. As you can see here to my left, there was a bar. Adults only, obviously, but you could have a drink at the Pinball Expo. Had this booth with, I'll be completely honest, some very expensive candy, at least in my personal opinion. I'm sure it was great and all kind of hand custom made, but too rich for my blood, that's for sure. One thing that was really cool is that there was plenty of custom items that you could buy to upgrade your own cabinet. Whether you have a video pinball cabinet, or you have, like I really like there, the mosquito and amber puller there, plunger. But there were plenty of booths. Like if you wanted to build a cabinet from scratch, you absolutely could. Alice in Wonderland. So Wonderland Amusements here is one of the two, and you can scan that QR code if you like. But there are two cabinets coming because Alice in Wonderland is entering public domain in 2025. At least that's what I have heard. And so that was one of them. The Wonderland Amusements one was not working for most of the weekend, at least. So I wasn't able to play it. But it was here. The prototype was here. Here we got lots of back glass that you could buy, custom LED lighting and mods, lit flipper kits. You could really bling out your pinball table if you wanted to. You could make an entirely new one. And that's, you know, you can make one of those homebrew tables. Really cool to be able to buy all these parts. This pin score here, that you can have custom video and have your scores all ticking. All this stuff is custom made for you to build your own cabinets or upgrade your existing cabinets. And of course the requisite nerdy artwork. I love me some nerdy artwork, although I don't have enough wall space to be picking it up, but I know that's often a hit for many. Those on the left, they're not guns, they're side bits for your pinball cabinet. And here are some toppers. So you got a Elvira, Godzilla, I'm not quite sure who that guy on the bottom is, but we'll come back to the toppers. There's some other really cool ones, or maybe those cool ones are here. Oh yeah, you can see. There we go. We got Groot, we got Jaws, more Godzilla. I love the Jurassic Park T-Rex and the Terminator, and I really liked this Indiana Jones one. I would, if I had an Indiana Jones pinball cabinet, that would be on top of it. Really cool. And of course, Jurassic Park. I have a Jurassic Park Jeep. I'm a huge Jurassic Park fan. It's one of the movies that made me want to enter the film and television industry, which I have worked in for over 20 years now. So I credit it with a lot of inspiration. On the left here, there was a raffle, and down here there was a tournament where you enter your name and you could win either a marquee or $1,000 off Atari's Asteroids cabinet. And this cabinet is phenomenal. I really, really like this game. If I was buying arcade cabinets, I'm sure I would go for a MAME, something that would play lots of different things. I'm not sure I would ever buy a standalone Asteroids, but it's an excellent game if you get a chance to play it. And here is the other Alice in Wonderland game that is coming. And this one had lineups all weekend to play. This one is ready to go. Unfortunately, they did not let us play it outside of the hours. I obviously had a exhibitor pass, so I was there before, and I asked him, "Hey, can you mind if I play it?" And he's like, "No, we're saving it just for when the show's open." So I did end up waiting in line and playing it once, but I didn't film myself playing it. But it's pretty cool, and if you like the theme of Alice in Wonderland, it's an excellently made cabinet. Here we got some more kits. And the Princess Bride. A lot of these booths, whether they were selling pinball cabinets or not, they had something to play. And so it really benefited anybody to really walk around, and it encouraged you to walk around. Because there was stuff to play left, right, and center. Here's a whole bunch of different bumpers that you could buy, different parts for your pinball machine, pinball cabinet. More parts there. Some free play arcade and pinball here. And then these ones that are stacked up here, this was pretty incredible. These were all up for auction. They were running an auction throughout the entire show, and all these pinball machines and arcade machines were up for auction. I believe if you had registered for the auction, you could get them to turn it on and play it. But obviously, as a person who flew to Chicago, and even if he had the money to, could not afford to bring one of these back, or couldn't bring one of these back, I did not register, therefore I did not play. But as you can see, we passed by it just a second ago. There's some really vintage stuff in here too. So stuff from all eras, including, you can see the Pong table down there. But there was tons and tons and tons of stuff that you could bid on if you were so inclined. And a lot of these other pinball cabinets also had prices on them. So they were on the floor for the weekend. But if you wanted to buy one, they were not cheap, most of them anyway. But I did see by the end of the weekend, a lot of them had sold tags on them. So high rollers coming here. There's some more video games. This was the Sean Kelly's table, VectrexMulti.com. I did buy a Vectrex homebrew for future review in 2025. And of course, it wouldn't be the Midwest if you didn't have some cornhole. More pinball, more pinball, more pinball. It's just everywhere here. Like I said, if you were a big video game guy, you may have been disappointed. I certainly was not disappointed. I love pinball, and I love video games, but definitely the focus, at least this year, in their first year partnering with VGS, the focus still was very much pinball. Would have been nice if there was some more video game stuff, but I also realized that although these crowds overlap, here's another free play area, although these crowds overlap, there is still, in some people, maybe some animosity in that arcades killed pinball, but there's been a resurgence in pinball, and I think we can all coexist, so it'd be nice to see a little bit more of the video game stuff here, but certainly don't want it to take over. This is Pinball Expo. Holy Grail Games, that is the little store that was run by Jaden Burke, Rob Burke's son, and they were certainly represented here. Here's the, right after the Alien cabinet here, the new ABBA cabinet. I played it. Again, I like ABBA good enough. The music was good. I played a lot to Waterloo. I didn't think the cabinet was fantastic. It was good, but it certainly was no Elton John, if I'm gonna be just completely honest. And here, kind of some mechanical craft stuff here. Really, really cool. And kind of explaining how it works. And then coming back, of course, it wouldn't be a game expo if it didn't have Pokemon cards and anime swords. Here we go. I really like that Queen cabinet. The Alien cabinet is also quite good. You can see in the background there that one sign said 1930s Pinball Tournament. Can't wait till we get to that part of the floor and I get to show you that. But as you can see, just these little pods kind of all throughout the floor of different arcades, and you saw the price on those. Right here, these are the kind of tables that I really like. It's just like a whole pile of junk thrown on the table. That's how you know they're gonna have the good old stuff. When they're all like meticulously priced and lined up, it's like, okay, that's an NES table. And there's nothing wrong with an NES table, but I've been kind of priced out of NES, so I look for those big messy Atari bins. And there you go, there's one right there. Unfortunately, my entire Atari collection is large enough that it is rare that I find something I need, at least within a price that I can afford, but it does happen. And there certainly was some Intellivision here. There was some Odyssey 2. There was some ColecoVision. There you can see kind of on the left, there's a 7800. So there was variety here, and I did find some stuff that I needed. So that was awesome. But right here, this was the 1930s pinball section. And yes, you could go around and play these. Awesome to see these. Again, like I said, it's really cool to be able to play the whole evolution of anything, whether it be video games, whether it be pinball machines, arcade games. It's just an experience, and when I play these, my grandfather has never been into games, but you know, he was born in the 30s, and I always think, it's like, did he go to the fair sometime in the 40s or 50s, and did he play something like this? It's just, you get that kind of experience. Now, what we're coming up to on the right is really cool. Now, they had a little sign here. Oh, I turned around. Okay, turn around again, Mike. There we go. This thing looks like a really messed up billiard table. And it's got these small billiard balls, but it says right here, I was made in 1860 and I inspired pinball. Play me. and then it had the rules. And you use the pool cue and these small billiard balls, and you have to hit them into the pockets. So it's kind of like a golf slash pinball thing. And just the fact that they had something there that is like 160 years old, and you could play it. Now, yes, it's just a glorified billiard table, but just, again, that evolution, really cool. And that booth there, you see, it was a really messy video game booth, and I love those booths because I know I'm going to find something cool, whether I can afford it or not. I even like just seeing something cool. Coming over around the corner here, got some more vendors. On the right there is the auction section. So here we got some more video games. These glass cases, I rarely look in. That's the indication that, Mike, you can't afford what's in here. But a wide variety, old, modern. If you were into video games, I don't think you'd be disappointed. There's stuff to buy, for sure. And then, who would have guessed it? More pinball. Free play everywhere. It really benefited you to explore the entire floor. On the right there, you could get some really overpriced pizza. But that's okay. And then I've had a lot of people ask me about video pinball. Now, video pinball really isn't for me, but they did have this section here, and you could walk up and play a whole pile of different things. So here, of course, Jurassic Park, or that's the Jurassic World one that was there, and they even had mini video pinball. Pinball machines and parts. And of course, arcade games of different types. So, of course, being Canadian, I was disappointed that it was a Chicago versus Detroit hockey table there, but that's okay. And of course, we're in Chicago, so you got Chicago Blackhawks air hockey. This here was really cool. Got these little joysticks. I didn't actually get to play that, but it looked really neat to me. And yeah, just more pods of pinball machines. In the back there, you can see the, what's it called? Galactic Space Force? Galactic Tank Force. Great cabinet, and they've got the little UFO up at the top there. Now, something I didn't realize, and I really should have, because I've played this a few times, but when you fold it down, as you can see there, it actually, if you've got that one that's got the thing on the back that I thought was just a light, it makes it look like a tank. And that's just cool. This Houdini cabinet, I really, really liked. Both of them were sold. But it actually had video game elements to it. There's a card toss game, so when you get your ball in a certain area, it would trigger a trick that you have to perform, and one of them was tossing cards, and that was cool. Here, this table was all original pinball parts. They even had a whole pile of old pinball manuals, and flipping through them was actually pretty cool. Some pinball boards. Again, just everything you could possibly want to augment or create your own pinball masterpiece was here. This booth was fun. This booth was full of different jukeboxes from all different ages. I would love to have a jukebox. And all of them were like, yes, please, play me. And I thought this one was kind of neat. I had never seen one of these. I know these were around in the early 80s, but just a complete video pinball. So it's got a TV monitor there, and you can scroll through. And what do I pick? I go to some metal, and of course, I like me some Alice Cooper. So we played some Alice Cooper. Alright, that's enough of Poison. Hopefully I don't get demonetized because of that. But like I was saying, there's your Pokemon cards area right beside vintage pinball parts. Really anything from any era. You even pick up some payphones. You could build an entire area that's all just any era, any kind of retro, vintage, anything. You could build it with the parts that you'd get here. Back in the corner here were some really cool old arcade games. Of course, you had the prerequisite Tron cabinet. That is one of my favorites. I've said it before. You've got a Mega Race, you've got Defender, you got Robotron. Down at the end there was a real vintage shooter arcade game. Here, that table was kind of just a potpourri. It was a bit of everything. So yeah, you've got video games, you've got pinball stuff, you've got artwork, and just the experience of it all. The one thing too that was really different about this one is that they were open till like midnight, 1, 2 in the morning each night. And some of the vendors stayed up the whole time and some of them closed shop, but the free play was just always open, and it was open super late. So unlike a lot of other places that might close at 10 o'clock and have a different vendor area that'll close at 5 o'clock, this one, everything theoretically was open the entire time. Now down this aisle you had, again, more pinball and a bunch of arcades. You had the Retrocade custom cabinets there. And of course, you got a big Bowser walking around. Like what convention doesn't have a big Bowser walking around? Tons of amiibos on that table. You got a big Deadpool. And then here is the Jersey Jack section. Jersey Jack, they're the ones that made the Elton John table, which I absolutely love. They have Avatar there, which I like, but it ain't no Elton John. And again, they had their wares to play. There's Toy Story 4. And yeah, so you had sponsored areas where they would just show off whatever they've got or whatever they have upcoming. Obviously, the big upcoming ones were Metallica from Stern and the Alice in Wonderland cabinets. Those ones all had big lineups. And then, of course, there was this other room. And I like to call this the Rob Burke room, although not all the pinball machines here were from Rob Burke's collection at Pastimes Arcade. A lot of these were. So you'd walk up to any given one of these cabinets and they'd have a little tag saying, from the collection of Rob Burke, not for sale. Some of them were for sale, but most of them were not. And there was just pinball machines. These were more, I'd say from every era, but kind of every era leading up to the early 2000s. This was more vintage cabinets. The newer stuff was in the other room. But just machine after machine after machine. And again, like the other area, if you weren't picky on what to play, like this guy on my left right here, you could just walk up to any machine and play it. There was, all throughout the entire weekend, there was at least a few machines that you could just walk up to and play. Right there is Orbiter 1. Such a unique cabinet. And as we come around here, you got South Park, you got Twister. This one right here, Thunderball. You could come and play it at Pinball Expo. You don't have to go to Pastimes Arcade to play it, but that's one of 10 in the world. Of course, you've got the Pinbot. Those are a classic. If you like pinball, this was the place to be. And then of course we had the Stern Pinball Pro Circuit official tournament room. I didn't really walk too far into this one because I could not actually play anything here. These were all cabinets specifically for the tournament, and they held one of their tournaments here. Last but not least, not included with the Pinball Expo, but facilitated by the Pinball Expo, you could get tours of different factories. They had a Jersey Jack tour, they had a Stern tour, and I was lucky enough to get on the Stern tour. So we actually got on buses from the Pinball Expo, and they took us to the Stern factory. Unfortunately, during the tour, I was not allowed to film. I can tell you that they were making X-Men cabinets when we went through there, but I was able to film and take pictures of their lobby area, and of course I had to get a picture with Gary Stern, which was awesome. And yeah, so that was the 40th annual Pinball Expo, combining with VGS for the first time. It was a really unique experience, definitely different from other conventions. All the right pieces there. If you are a fan of pinball, I would highly recommend you make the trip, especially with the vendors sponsoring it. Everything pinball you could ever want was there. If you're not into pinball and you're still in the area, I would still recommend giving it a shot. There was a good amount of video game stuff there, and certainly lots to see and do. So I hope you like this walkthrough, and we'll see you next time on Mike's Gaming Gala.